So this is Rumi's famous poem, The Guest House. This being human is a guest house every morning, a new arrival. A joy, a depression, a meanness, some momentary awareness comes as an unexpected visitor. Welcome and entertain them all, even if they're a crowd of sorrows who violently sweep your house empty of its furniture. Still treat each guest honorably, who may be clearing you out for some new delight. The dark thought, shame, malice, meet them at the door laughing and invite them in. Be grateful for whoever comes, because each has been sent as a guide from beyond.
Most of us know what it feels like to want to be a good person, to live ethically, and to do no harm.
But what if being good isn't about following rules? What if the real practice is learning how to see clearly and to act without a why?
This is the Peacemakers Podcast. I'm Jim.
And I'm Jeff. Today's episode comes from a conversation I had with Zen teacher Nancy Mujo Baker Roshi. She's a successor of Bernie Glassman, a founding teacher of the No Traces Sangha, and professor emerita of philosophy at Sarah Lawrence.
This episode was recorded during a study series on the Buddhist Precepts, where Nancy invited us to take a deeper look, not just at how we behave, but what it means to be one with the precepts.
Because the process of studying the precepts is not about becoming better, it's about becoming intimate with our delusions, our failures, and the parts of ourselves that we try to hide.
Together, we'll explore how ethics, suffering, and even sorrow can become gateways into our own awakening.
Let's get started.
I had to look up the distinction between moral and ethical. And the term moral is, about our lives and our actions and our behavior, which may be a function of the culture in which we live or all kinds of things. But ethical, of course, refers to a set of precepts, if you will. It involves things like right, wrong, should not, good, bad, etc. But then it urges us to, maybe one might say, become one with a precept, and such that it arises naturally out of who we are and not being a function of my making a choice in a certain circumstance about what's the right thing to do here. So the way the precepts were taught to me, and perhaps this still happens in Zen communities, is that there's sort of three levels. The first being absolute in the small a sense of never, ever kill, never, ever steal, etc. And the killing example always used in my day, many years ago, were the Jains who wear a mask to keep from inhaling the microbes and thus killing the microbes in the air. So it's like never killing anything. In our culture, which is not Jain, we see people like that and we think of them as being sort of rigid. So I would judge myself harshly for failing to adhere to a precept in a very rigid sense. And then, of course, I judge everybody else as well. And we do have a word in English, which is that people are like that, are moralistic, different from being moral or ethical. But most of the world lives in a sort of second level, if you will, of precept life, of ethical life, which is a level where context is really important. And so, depending on the context, I might decide to do X or Y or not X. In either of these cases, the sort of rigidly absolute sense or the contextual relative sense of a precept, there's separation between me and the precept. So it's a dualistic kind of thing. But the traditions sort of push us further into a non-dual perspective. There's something universal about some of this: stealing, killing, lying, being angry. There's a universality that goes cross-culturally. And one of the big questions is, where do these precepts come from? And in the Judeo-Christian tradition, we have the 10 Commandments, which come from God, given to Moses. And the non-dual version would be to be one with God. And then the precept arises naturally, whichever one it is. So Confucius said, at 70, I could follow what my heart desired without transgressing what was right. Namely, the heart had come to a place where the correct way of behaving, and I know we need to change that language, emerges naturally. St. Augustine said, once for all, then, a short precept is given thee: love God and do what thou wilt. And then there's a Christian poet, mystic Angelus Silesius. Man, if you live in God and die to your own will, how simple it will be his precepts to fulfill. And then Meister Eckhart, the great Christian mystic, who of all the Christian mystics has the most in common with Zen. You must penetrate and transcend all the virtues, and should take virtue only in the ground where it is one with the divine nature. So the divine nature in Zen terms is what we call the absolute with a capital A, Buddha nature, the oneness. There are many words in the Zen tradition. So the Zen version is from Dogen. When we sit Zazen, what precept is not observed? It's automatic. And of course, by Zazen, he didn't mean just sitting on their cushion, but to be in that state of Zazen, which for Dogen is enlightenment, basically. Precepts in the Soto sect, which Dogen is seen to be the originator of, come down to us not as don't, or don't kill, don't lie, don't steal, or not killing, not lying, not stealing, but rather non-lying, non-killing, non-stealing. The first thing is to really ask what's meant by stealing, for example. You know, we think of stealing money or stealing someone else's property. So, what are some of the other things that we steal? Well, it turns out we steal attention. We can steal water, electricity. You know, in places where there's drought and people were initially not supposed to water their lawns, you know, some people would figure out a way to do this at night. And of course, they're stealing from everybody else. They're stealing water. They're stealing water that could be used to drink. We could steal from other people a view, building something in front of somebody's view, or erecting a fence or whatever. We could steal the beauty of nature. And then we steal from the future. I mean, why don't we just relax and wait till such and such happens? You know, we get anxious, we worry, we want to hurry up. Think about hurrying. And that's basically stealing from the present. We steal from the past. You know, we have this expression which is useful, I think, for Zen people: let bygones be bygones. Look, they're gone. Let them be. We're carrying around with us and not letting it lie where it belongs. It's finished. We're, in a sense, grave robbing, which is really terrible. It just always has struck me as a really awful thing. I mean, imagine stealing from the dead. But I think the other really important part is to be able to expose oneself, to stop self-protecting, to stop hiding. And I'm really very impressed with how powerful that kind of exercise is. It's a challenge. It takes courage. But once you get into it, people start really looking forward to it. It's like, wow, I never thought of it that way. But this is really crucial. It is the one main requirement for arriving at the non-place with the precept in question, at the automatic place of its coming out naturally of the non-dual place. And we all have moments like this. And I always think of the experience of standing on a street corner when somebody's about to step out into the traffic, not seeing that, and you quickly put your arm out or you grab the person. There's no thought about this. Like there's none. This is very common. We all have moments like that, especially in an emergency. Bernie Glassman used to, I don't know whether he got it from my Zumi Roshi, but, he said, if my left hand's burning, my right hand doesn't say, oh, gee, I don't know if I should get burned. It's an automatic thing because it's one body. And the other really silly one that he had was if somebody hands money to you and the left hand takes it, the right hand doesn't try to steal it from the left hand. It's absurd. And at that level of awakened oneness, seeing the oneness of everything, being part of the oneness, these kinds of behaviors are automatic. And there's no reference, why'd you do that? Well, I just did. This is called living without a why. Zen is full of this. This is non-duality. This is the oneness. This is without a why, without a because. And so the precepts can flow out of us in that same way, where I'm not separate from a precept, choosing the right thing to do, paying attention to the context. Well, if it were this or, and where I might answer the question because it was the right thing to do. Or because stealing is wrong. Well, it isn't always wrong. Robin Hood, why are you stealing? Because it's the right thing to do. These people are taking money from the poor. So living with whys, with because is part of our regular, everyday, relative, whatever you want to call it, lives. And it's important. But there are those moments when even stealing from the rich and giving to the poor just happens automatically. I mean, walking down the street in New York with a homeless person asking for a handout, and then there are many of them. Sometimes people could say to themselves, well, this is the right thing to do, and reach in and hand whoever it is some money. It's just automatic. And this is what true compassion is. Compassion is not about sharing the feelings of the other. It's what's needed right away in a non-dual sense is the highest form of compassion. And the more compassion we have for ourselves, the more we have for others. So, instead of a practice of being good, of following a precept, of becoming better, etc., I discover all the ways that I kill, that I lie, that I steal, etc. And so there's a discovery there, but there's also a compassionate allowing or even welcoming those places in me that I'd rather not acknowledge, and I certainly don't want you to know about them. And of course, many times we're so good at avoiding them that they're hidden from us as well. But Buddhism is very clear that we have to go through our suffering, failures to do good, to be compassionate, etc., and not around them or behind them, we have to go through them. Because in the Zen tradition in particular, nothing is excluded. This is one of the deepest realizations in Zen. So another way this is said in Zen, this is a saying that appears in Dogen and elsewhere, which is, if you fall to the ground, you have to use the ground to get up. So if I have a stealing habit, I go to the local whatever and I steal fruit and I don't need it. I'm not starving. I have to find out what it feels like to steal. Why am I doing this? So one of the characteristics of the enlightened, it's a funny word in English, I think, is satisfaction. But that means freedom from any sense of lack. In the realm of oneness, there is no lack. Nothing's lacking. Everything is just as it is. In fact, everything we might discover is perfect as it is. So then, if there's no sense of lack, then stealing doesn't make any sense. My left hand's taking the money and I'm trying to steal it with my right hand doesn't make any sense because this is one body here. So some of you know the Gatha of Atonement that's recited, chanted, all evil karma ever committed by me since of old on account of my beginningless greed, anger, ignorance. Now I atone for it all. And I remember it's being pointed out to me that the word atonement is at-one-ment. And to atone for anything is to fully take it in and be it and know what it tastes like, and then you're free of it. But if I treat atonement as, well, I'm not going to do that again, it's likely to come back and come back and come back. So this can be distressing to have a Zen teacher say to you, you need to learn to love your delusions, your sufferings. They're part of you. You need to embrace them, and embracing them, you're letting them out of prison, the prison of don't want to know, need to hide, etc. And with that, a lot can happen. So I'm sure many of you know the poetry of Mary Oliver, and I'm sure most of you know this as well, that 95% of her poetry is about nature, and it's really quite beautiful and sort of redemptive. She had a father who sexually abused her when she was a child. And she's written 5 poems about this, which are incredible, and they're about her journey. Here's the last poem, and I know it took her over a period of years. She finally wrote this poem. And it's Love Sorrow. So she's opened the cage finally, and she's allowed that little girl, who went through horrors. She's gotten closer and closer to her, and also knows that she has to take care of herself. So here's the ending of this journey. Love sorrow, she is yours now, and you must take care of what has been given. Brush her hair, help her into her little coat, hold her hand, especially when crossing a street. For think, what if you should lose her? Then you would be sorrow yourself. Her drawn face, her sleeplessness was worse. Take care, touch her forehead that she feel herself not so utterly alone, and smile that she does not altogether forget the world before the lesson. Have patience in abundance, and do not ever lie or leave her even for a moment by herself, which is to say, possibly again abandoned. She is strange, mute, difficult, sometimes unmanageable. But remember, she is a child, and amazing things can happen. And you may see, as the two of you go walking together in the morning light, how little by little she relaxes, looks about her, and begins to grow. Very touching poem. But that little girl could be our anger, greed, ignorance, our compulsion to steal, our killing, our needing to kill other people's success, or stealing attention, or whatever version. You know, non-killing doesn't exclude killing. Not killing excludes killing. So they are opposites. So working through, in Zen terms, explaining why being able to compassionately allow the killer, liar, stealer, is why that's a requirement for arriving at the non-dual relation to a precept. To come right back down into the reality in which we live is, in a sense, think about practice here. It's an act of faith, because one is giving up the kind of intellectual control over one's reality and one's relationships to others and so on and so forth. And you become part of the great unfolding. And you say, well, yeah, but wait a second, where are the handles? And there are none. But it's to discover a totally different way of being that's full of joy. Dogen says, in Zazen, what precept is not followed? It just naturally flows out of Zazen. But of course, he's not talking about sitting on the cushion as a particular practice. You know, Bernie used to talk about the state of Zazen, what we take off the cushion. And to be in that state is to be completely open to the non-dual, I mean, to be in it. This helps us see why actualizing a Buddha is not to be in some permanent, unchanging, timeless, absolute state, forever free of what Dogen calls our topsy-turvy everyday life. Moreover, he reminds us that the vertiginous confusions of life are limitless, unquote. In fact, everything that makes up what we call life is impermanent, and as Dogen shows us, that impermanence itself is Buddha nature.
It's humbling, isn't it? To hear how the precepts are not about achieving moral perfection, but rather about becoming so intimate with our lives that nothing is left out.
Right. Nancy reminds us that we can't skip over suffering. We have to go through it. And in doing so, we discover that even our delusion is Buddha nature.
That line from Mary Oliver's poem, "You must take care of what has been given," rings so true here, doesn't it? Whether it's sorrow, delusion, or love.
Thank you for joining us. If this podcast moved something in you, we hope that you'll share it with a friend or your community.
The Zen Peacemakers offers weekly, free online events and bearing witness retreats in places like Alabama, South Dakota, and Auschwitz-Birkenau in Poland.
Your support makes it all possible. Please consider becoming a paid subscriber or a Zen Peacemakers member. You can learn more at www.zenpeacemakers.org.
We'll be back in 2 weeks with a new episode. Until then, stay curious, stay open.
The Peacemakers Podcast is a production of Zen Peacemakers, an international organization whose mission is to realize our oneness and relieve suffering through contemplative social action. You can find the full video recording of this podcast and more at www.zenpeacemakers.org and go to our media library.